High 5D Voyagers, welcome to another magical moment. This is probably going to be longer than a moment. And thank you, Tessie, for this beautiful handmade crocheted top. I want to talk today about breaking cycles and really transcending out of past patterns. If I keep looking down, it's because I have a lot of notes. This week I have received emails and text messages from several people expressing really deep, heavy emotions and also, witnessing kind of the same cycles or anger resurfacing about some things and being in a reactive place. And I myself have been moving through some of really deep unconscious fears coming up to the surface as well. I'm very extremely human. I've been in a place of shifting my basic core beliefs, which I'll link the video to below, which are the roots that hold up your reality, and also a lot of other side beliefs for the past year. And it's created a little bit of, I want to call it instability, because I'm serving two masters. I'm eliminating this one belief of myself as not safe or not secure and implanting my subconscious with I'm safe and I'm secure. So if you've been experiencing the same patterns, the world isn't happening to you and it's not happening through you, it's happening as you. There's no one to change but yourself. To attempt to change the world before you change yourself is to struggle against the nature of things. I believe that the spiritual communities have done a really big disservice to people to be like, well, if they don't choose you, cut them out, just a toxic person. Well, the only thing that's really toxic is your beliefs. And I say this from a place of deep love of someone who had a past belief system that created chaos, trauma, and abuse in my reality. So, number one, yes, you are 100% allowed to cut people out of your life. You're 100% allowed to set boundaries to keep yourself safe. People do need to take responsibility for your actions. You're not a doormat at all. But if you really want to transcend and break these cycles and these patterns, it all has to come from within. So you have to address and prune the vine inside yourself first, or will continually happen. You'll cut this one person out of your life, and then the universe, which is very artistic and like an impressionistic painting, will find a way to represent that same belief externalized in someone else. So focus on changing your internal belief rather than the external behavior of another person. And like I said, I say this from a place of deep love as somebody who's moving through it and doing her own internal work and gets triggered and reactive and has to come from a place of forgiveness with myself and other people. So once I realize that I'm God of reality, my reality and my beliefs are creating these behaviors in other people, I've been moving heaven and earth to eliminate this ickiness inside of myself. So people are essentially forced to treat you in a way that your beliefs would have them. So forgive yourself and forgive them, for both know not what you do. So, all right. How do you identify your beliefs that you need to change? How do you identify those limiting beliefs? I call it triggers of transcendence. So your higher self will find ways to trigger you in order for you to address these wounds, these beliefs inside of you. And if you have a particular desire that you're going after, it might trigger you even more to bring those things to the surface in order for it to get cleared out. When you are triggered, it is your higher self asking you to address a belief that needs to be healed. A trigger is an arrow pointed inward, and not in a negative way, but it's a way to focus on what is presenting itself. So how do you identify them? All right, those mental arguments that you have with certain people that are close to you, look at the repetitive thought. Look at the argument that you're saying. Sometimes I literally will write down the argument that I'm having with that person. Oh, you're not treating me fairly. Why did you do this? That wasn't fair. This and this, that's not fair. Oh, there's the belief. I deserve to be treated fairly and with respect. I am respected. Another way, and you know, it's forcing you and it's bringing it to the surface for you to address it. If you continue to avoid it though, what you resist persists and it will just gain in intensity. So these thoughts will eventually get externalized into an external experience or event that's going to trigger you really harder in order to address it. And that's happened to me multiple times. So moments of heightened emotions is when your most primal unconscious sphere is externalized or you express it outwards. They come to the surface, so your words are externalized. Words are externalization of your deepest internalized fear. So I'll sometimes go back after an argument and write down what I said, not as a way of being right, but as a way of identifying what beliefs in me do I need to address, and then changing those inside myself. So, you know, in that moment, I may have dipped into, you know, lower polarity or not representing my best self and saying things like, you did this, you did that, and really realizing it was. So if you tell somebody you disrespected me, I'm not respected. I'm respected. I respect myself. That's how you start to identify it. Usually the people that are closest or more intimate you will say your deepest beliefs back to yourself. It's interesting, one of the things that sticks out in my head from one of my last conversations with my ex-husband was that he said, I knew I didn't deserve the best. And is that his belief or is that my belief? And I believe that it's actually something I hold inside myself, because it's something that keeps looping and looping and looping and looping. So one of the beliefs I've been working on too is I deserve the best. So the process of changing them, yes, beliefs can change overnight. I hold the possibility that they can change overnight. And we're dealing with waves of thoughts and particles in the physical form. So the particles being the nervous system, the neurons in the brain, and the physical reality that need to reform, rematerialize, and restructure. I will notice and I will say something about manifesting from a place of trauma. We know that trauma rewires the brain differently and entrenches certain neurons. So be very loving to yourself if you're shifting beliefs associated with trauma. I have noticed the beliefs associated with trauma take a little bit longer and are a little bit more intense to move through. I've been shifting my core beliefs and thousands of beliefs this past year. And I honestly feel like it's made me feel a little bit unstable because I'm in between no man can serve two masters and in between two conceptions of self. So I'm kind of hovering in this void where I'm existing in a consciousness of myself. I'm respected, I'm not respected, and shifting that for myself. So this is the pattern I'm noticing for my own deeper beliefs associated with trauma. Sometimes, you know, some beliefs will switch really quickly and I'll get immediate confirmation in my physical reality, and that feels really good. I do all this belief work because it's not even so much about getting something outside of myself anymore. It's just that I don't want this ickiness. When you figure out that these beliefs need to change, you'll move heaven and earth, especially if you've experienced some really deep trauma or abuse or horrific things in your reality. So the first few days after affirming, I get really positive changes and instant manifestations. And then there's some dark or negative emotions and thoughts that come to the surface. So this is coming to the surface intentionally. You know, our body is layers of sheaths or koshas. We know this from Yoga Nidra, meaning your highest body is your bliss body, then it's your thought body, then it's your emotional body, your breath body, and your physical body. And sometimes this trauma originates in maybe the thought body or the emotional body, and then it gets expressed down into the physical body. So these thoughts and emotions are coming to the surface in order to be cleared out. That mud, that muck, the light's coming on and the cockroaches are scattering. So identify those thoughts and emotions. You got to sit with it and you got to feel it. I love the Untethered Soul, that it talks about this purification process, that when you feel that emotion, you let it just burn through you. This is the true trait of the yogi, the Kamasapayita, to be able to sit in stillness with those lower polarity emotions, and to have it burn, purify like the phoenix, and burn to ashes those samskaras inside of you. So if it doesn't get released through those negative thoughts or those negative emotions, what I notice is that an external event will be triggered, might be the complete opposite belief that you're working on, in order for you to almost fiercely and forcefully release the emotions associated with it. I used to cry more in my reality, and then that's something I kind of shut off. And now I'm noticing some really heavy events come up in order to release that emotion associated with that old belief, that old pattern, that old cycle. So I've had amazing, beautiful things manifest, and then like the next day, the complete opposite of the belief shows up. But it's just you choosing which master you're going to serve. When you cut off the head of the snake's going to bleed out. The old dimension, the old self has to wither off in order for you to become and step fully into the person that you always were meant to be. I feel like that the higher self is not going to give you anything more than you can handle. I'm at a point now where I'm hitting some of my deepest, most darkest unconscious fears. And I've shifted through a lot of other fears up here, and I'm hitting the bedrock. I wasn't ready to address these things months ago, but because of all the internal work that I've done, now I'm ready to do it. And what does it mean to really do the internal work? It means to work on the inside rather than to work on the outside and try and force and manipulate and exert force on the outside. Go within, as within, so without. One analogy I really love is like, you know, what you're doing is you're essentially extracting venom from your mind, and it has to be sucked out first for the poison to become medicine. You're breaking the bone in order to set it straight. How many times has somebody had to get surgery on something and it had to get worse before it could get better? So in terms of manifesting, I think about Christ cleansing the temple. In this process of breaking cycles, of these triggers of transcendence, it's Christ cleansing the temple of your mind. So in the Bible it says, "Thou shalt have no other God beside me." As long as a man entertains beliefs in a power apart from himself, so long will he rob himself of all the being that he is. It is written, "My house shall be called of all nations a house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves." House of prayer. How have you made your house a den of thieves? And it's really sometimes not even our fault. A lot of our beliefs get instilled in us from ages 0 to 7 when we're in this theta state, this kind of state of hypnosis, and we're kind of just absorbing these beliefs. Okay, I hope that was worth an explanation. If you want more detailed explanation of how I really change a lot of beliefs, I have different various coaches, subliminals I've used. I've created my own subliminals as well. I really love using subliminals because this is released in your dream state when your state is basically in a state of theta and you're able to put in these beliefs. That's why you should be very careful what you listen to. It also should be very careful what you watch right before you go to bed. If you fall asleep with the TV on, it's probably not a very good idea. I've done this unintentionally for myself, but that purification process, you're using that theta state, a state of self-hypnosis, in order to put new beliefs into you as well. And then discussing further how to assist yourself during the day while you're transitioning between self-concepts, between dimensions, between serving the master that is yourself. All right. I love you. I value you. I accept you. You are limitless. So mote it be. As I speak it, I create it. Sealed with a kiss.